like to call the Board of Commissioners study session for December 1st, 2015 to order, if I could, please. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Leitner? Here. Commissioner Walls? Here. Commissioner Rice? Here. Commissioner Duckham? Commissioner Alexander? Present. Commissioner Mahoney? Commissioner Palachuk? Here. Commissioner Elwell? Here. Chairman Shotwell? Here. All right.
Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Seeing none, we shall move on to the administrator's portion of the meeting, and with much anticipation, ask Dan Dubois to step forward and explain to the board his presentation.
All right, thank you. Got a little handout for you, but I didn't print enough of them. Got a pretty tight budget here in our little baseball committee, so I'll get them afterwards.
If you could give it to the clerk and to Adam, we'll get it scanned to everybody.
Okay, fantastic. First of all, thank you for carving out some time in your meeting for this presentation. As Steve mentioned, my name's Dan Dubois. A little bit of my background, I've spent the last 4 years in the construction industry. And I spent 13 years before that at Michigan International Speedway, where the relevant things there, I've led some business development initiatives that hatched events like the Wine Festival and the concerts that are happening out there right now. But the main reason I'm here is leading the organizing committee to try to bring a professional baseball team to Jackson. It would be an independent league professional baseball team. We've assembled an organizing committee of some people with various backgrounds and expertise. It's in the handout, and it's also on our website, www.jacksonbaseball.club. But those people have operations expertise, guest services expertise, worked in government, community relations, financial, sales, and marketing. We've got people on the committee that are local entrepreneurs, business success stories, very successful in what they do. So I think we've assembled a pretty good group of people to try to bring this about. So we've been trying to do that. As I understand it, the county also desires to have some additional programming at the fairgrounds. And so the main reason I'm here today is see, well, if and where our circles connect, and can we do a little bit more formal agreement in the form of a memorandum of understanding where we can move forward and try to get a few things done on our end, and I'll go through those things here in a bit. One of the things that I guess after being here, being in Jackson for 24 years now, you notice that generally our community has low self-esteem about our community, not necessarily in this room, but there, the low opinions of where people live. We have challenges attracting and keeping talent for our employers. We have, real estate markets that aren't quite what they should be. And people here earn less than maybe the same type of community that's either surrounding us or around the country. And we happen to think that, one of the reasons that's necessarily true where other communities are doing a little bit better financially is because something continually new happens there. So we didn't set out in this baseball idea to address all of those problems, but we do think that this is potentially one small aspect where if we could do this, it's a good stepping stone to get our community moving forward. And I guess one thing I've noticed after being here 24 years is there's always been, a group of people that are very optimistic about the community and volunteer themselves and want to push forward. But That group of people, I think, has grown quite a bit, and it's been noticeable to me in the last 10 years how more people want to put their heads together and think about how does Jackson County become a very successful community and a place where people want to live. And I think, speaking for myself and a lot of people I know, once here, we want to stay here. We got it, but it's a matter of making sure that we have that continual renewal, and this is an idea that can help that. So what is it and why now? We think this is an opportunity to provide professional sports to Jackson County, which we don't have. It's an affirmation of existence in Jackson County, like I just talked about, and it's at a price point where we think that not just the residents but the businesses will support it. It's something like this does not succeed without business support. After spending time at Michigan International Speedway, the sponsorships are key. You couldn't run that business on ticket sales alone. So the business community is essential to making this happen. I think we did a phase 1 study thanks to Experience Jackson last year, and one of the more interesting things is we had roughly 350 responses to the survey that actually took the time to write something out. We had 1,300 responses to the survey, but 350 of those people wrote something out, and some of these survey responses were kind of interesting. Awesome, hope it works out, very interested in the potential positive outcome, good things will happen, be a great addition to Jackson County, this is a great idea, what a great thing this would be for Jackson. So there's a lot of positive feedback. That doesn't come about the negative. I think 92% positive, 8% negative. This is my personal favorite. Is this idea is a terrible waste of time and resources. So I did note that this person lives alone. I lived alone once myself, so I'm not making any judgments on that, but it was interesting. One of the ones that I found that was pretty interesting, and it really speaks to, I think, where our community is going with the Jackson Young Professionals and a growing group of people that want to live and work in Jackson. The comment is, I am very involved in sports, and I'm going to school for sports management. I think bringing a ball field here will increase quality of life, morale, and bring new experiences for young children at a cheaper cost. My friends and family all think this would be a fantastic idea. And that is a general consensus with all the people that I've spoken to about this. So from, a younger person, it's just one and it's anecdotal, but I think it's an interesting comment. Now the facility that we're talking about is we do want it to be a professional stadium. So we like the idea at the fairgrounds because there's a lot of infrastructure there already that can save on cost, but we do want it to be quality and we want it to be a great experience. So in order to attract young people and older people, technology is becoming increasingly more important. So we want it to be multiple things, but it also has to be something where people want to go. It's a great experience from doorstep to doorstep. So how did this evolve? Anchor Initiative was that happened last year was really the catalyst in my mind to try to really bring this up. I mean, I've kicked the idea around in my mind for a long time. I'm a baseball guy. Played baseball in college. I played baseball after college. Played in a World Series after college, and I've always liked it. I've always thought it would be something that could work. But knowing that business support is instrumental in making something like this happen, until the Anchor Initiative happened, I didn't want to bring it up. But with companies in Jackson County putting in money to try to make the downtown better, that gave me the confidence to bring it up, and there's been a great response so far. There's more to come, and I'll get to what our future plans are here in a minute. Jackson Young Professionals is another group. I've mentioned them before. That gives this idea some positive momentum. They're very interested in it. I think there are 400 of them. When they sent an email out about the survey last fall, the next day we had 150 survey responses. So 150 in one night from just an email to those people. They're very active, they're very interested in their community. Businesses' desire to attract and keep employees is something that I've heard that drumbeat for a long time. How do we do that here? You know, adding to the quality of life with something like this can help do that. You know, it's not the Detroit Tigers, but it is something that's, you know, it could be Jackson's home team. And there's a lot of, I guess, you know, when I see it and think about the idea of, you know, two of the teams are located in Chicago, we can get a headline that says, you know, Jackson sweeps Chicago after we go on a 6-game road trip and come back. That, you know, that's kind of fun to think about. Jackson people currently need to travel outside of the county to get what we can offer with this baseball idea. So we have, I guess in my mind, a small window of opportunity to make this happen. I went through the talents of the people on the organizing committee, and you know, I think that group of people isn't necessarily reproducible in the future. The bunch of us worked at Michigan International Speedway. There's not a large event where we're going to have that kind of experience that want to live here in the county. You know, the people that work for the Detroit Tigers, when they're done there, they're not going to come to Jackson County. The people work at MIS now, most of them don't live in Jackson County anymore. So I think the people that care about what's going on here and the talent of the people on the committee that we can bring together, this is the right time to do it. Nobody's going to want to agree to anything unless you kind of have an idea what, you know, can we be financially successful? So, you know, these are not giant dollars like you'd find in major league sports, but the teams around the league, their costs are anywhere in the area of $1.1 million to $1.7 million a year, and their revenues are, you know, higher than that. I said we're building a plan that it would make it investable. It would make it a good investment. So we're going to have a good cost budget that lines up with revenue, and that's been what I've calculated and planned for the last couple of years, and that matched up to AECOM's survey or their financial analysis as well. Obviously not dollar for dollar, but between my analysis and their analysis, they were in the ballpark. Pardon the pun, not intended, but it's great. So why would this succeed in Jackson? In addition to the Anchor Initiative, you know, Experience Jackson, Chamber of Commerce, you know, this group that's interested in making, you know, Jackson successful. The plan all along is to have this team owned by the community. You're probably mostly familiar with the Green Bay Packers and how their team came about, or, you know, it's locally owned. People there own the team. And so our idea is to use Michigan's new law crowdfunding initiative to actually sell stock, sell ownership interest in the company to Jackson County residents. The way the law works, we couldn't limit it to Jackson County, but they would have to be Michigan residents. Jackson County people would probably be the ones that would want to buy in. You may be familiar with it, but briefly, the crowdfunding law is a carve-out of SEC laws and regulations that allow us to solicit investment from non-accredited investors. We can raise as much as we want from accredited investors. We can only raise a certain amount from non-accredited investors. But our thinking all along is if the community buys in from an investment standpoint, that's a great indicator that this will be successful. If they're not willing to buy in, we either are really bad at marketing and we shouldn't do this anyway, or it's not going to work here. So that's one of the hurdles that we have that we need to get over before we do anything like this. And the second thing is a strategic partner for naming rights. At the fairgrounds, we would the financials don't work unless you have a good partner that wants to sign a 10-year agreement with us to put their name on the facility for a financial investment. But I would add, it's not just a financial investment, it's a strategic partnership where they would actually want to participate with, you know, their own marketing at the facility, their own employee events, their own vendor events, that sort of thing. So those two things are, in my mind, the catalyst to being able to do this ultimately. So in order to accomplish those two things, one thing that gives us the best chance to do that is having a partner in a facility. So having the fairgrounds potentially sign a memorandum of understanding, which is basically says, hey, if we can accomplish these two things, we agree to work together to try to come to an agreement. If we don't accomplish those two things, then we can't do it. If we can't come to a financial agreement at the end of that, where we're paying enough rent to offset the costs to the county, then we can't do an agreement. So the idea all along is that part of that cost model includes a payment to the facility owner for rent, and the idea is that offsets the cost of the capital spend. So I guess the order of things, the top four things for us to get going are, number one, the memorandum of understanding that helps us get the strategic partnership. After that, we would like to kick off our crowdfunding initiative. If we're successful with both of those things, we come back and say, all right, let's sit down and figure out if we can get this deal done and do a more formal lease agreement. Those are kind of the four steps. So, I guess in conclusion, we think this is a tremendous opportunity at this point in time. I think it's potentially a one-time opportunity, at least for the foreseeable future anyway, with this group. It's the only pro game in town. If you can vote on it mid-December, that would be fantastic. That would work out very well with our timing to try to get our naming rights sponsors interested and signed in. And I think I guess the last thing on that is that I think this is really more about, improving the quality of life of the people that live and work here. I like it here. People ask me, well, why do you want to do this? A lot of it's selfish. I'd like to go to a ball game in the evening or on the weekend and hang out for a couple hours and have some fun, and then drive 12 minutes home. I love going to Ann Arbor. I love going to East Lansing. I love going to Detroit, but the drive home is not good. My kids love it. Kids love this kind of sport. There's always a mascot and that sort of thing. So I think it does improve the quality of life for people that live here. So I think our organizing committee has said all along that we're committed to seeing this through to its logical conclusion. And we started this 1.5 years ago. Last year there was a lot of buzz at the beginning, and we sort of went silent, but a lot of this has been work trying to figure out how do we make it happen. The plans never go according to the original plan, so we're following where we think this goes. So we think that, if the community, steps up and wants to do this, we can make it happen. But if it didn't, then, the train kind of stops here, and we will have given it our best shot. So with that, what questions do you have about baseball? The one from the radio this morning was, how much attendance does it take to make something like this thing successful? Our break-even analysis is about $75,000 a year. I think we'll do well at $100,000. Our size community we would be a small market team in the league. There are 3 other small market teams. But interestingly, small market teams draw better than the large market teams. So if you were to extrapolate the attendance as a percentage of the county, and it's in the handout actually, I think we would average over 4,000 people per game for 50 home games or 48 home games. I don't believe that, but what we're looking at is about 2,500 a game.
Questions, commissioners? Julie?
Thank you for that presentation, and we do have it now on Board Doc, so it's available to anyone to view as well. So, this sounds very exciting, very exciting. My question would be for the Administrator's Office and/or the Chair, the Chair of the Fair Board, Commissioner Leitner. Give us an understanding of how this would impact the 1 week of the fair, and also, the other question on the radio, we can make the assumption, though, although it was a long shot for Harness Raceway, Would this completely eliminate that possibility as well?
Okay, I'll start. Mike can chime in. Obviously, the whole plan of it is pretty exciting. And when I'm going to address master plan issues too. When we were doing the master plan, we actually kind of planned for having a baseball park within the master plan, the new master plan. And that took out most of the track anyways. And I think there's some rearranging of barns and all that. But obviously, it's May through September. And with fair in August, there's 2 weeks essentially that we have to have access to the fairgrounds. And so that would be really the only clause. I mean, there's work that goes on at the fairgrounds all summer, but really 2 weeks, the week before fair and the week of fair, are the main weeks that we would need use of that facility. And I'm sure that's something that can be in the contract, because anytime we rent out the grounds, it's already like that. There's already clauses in there for, we have to have access to be able to make our grounds look good. Then what was the second?
I would just add on with that too, the league is flexible with the schedule. They understand that the fairgrounds has its thing, and they would alter the schedule to make sure that we weren't there.
Commissioner Elwell?
I don't know if it's a question for Dan or Mike or maybe Sarah, but if we put a ball diamond in there, what do we do for parking?
Mike, do you want to cover that? Because we've had some pretty good discussions at the strategic plan on it. Commissioner Alexander?
You mentioned 3 other small market teams. What are their proximity to Jackson?
Traverse City is considered a small market team. There is one in, they believe it's Southern Illinois, Normal, something like that. And the third one escapes me. It's actually in that packet, and it's at the bottom. There's an attendance
Okay.
document that has those 3 teams at the bottom of it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rice?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for being here, Dan. Speaking of Traverse City, you spoke of other locations you've gone to. I frequent Traverse City, and I have been at the Traverse City Beach Bum facility there, which is a beautiful facility. And as you know, they've won some league championships and things of that nature. And I'm sure you alluded to this, but not only do they have support from their community, and obviously it's been there for many years, and so it's doing well, but certainly from the outgoing communities as well, it brings people in to it, which is also certainly important to Jackson County, and so if this all makes sense, I certainly applaud the idea. So thank you.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Duckham?
I didn't hear, I know you spoke of it. The length of the season is how many games?
48 home games plus playoffs if we get in it. So it's from about May through the end of August, and then the playoffs are in September.
Okay. Is there a salary cap?
There is. The salary cap, I think, is roughly $80,000, but it's for the whole team. So these guys are not getting rich doing this. It's something where they have a passion for it. And this is a lot of times what'll happen with the players is they're on a major league affiliate minor league team. They get released, but they need a place to play. So they can play for a season, on our team and then re-sign a contract, or they don't. This is, talking to the commissioners, you'll never see a harder working group of ball players because they need to get it done when they're on this team or they're not gonna move on.
How do you assemble your team?
The league helps quite a bit. One of the members of our organizing committee is Jake Boss Sr. Jake Boss Jr. is the head baseball coach at Michigan State. Jake Boss Sr. he's a scout for the Texas Rangers. So we have somebody on the committee that can help us with talent because we do get to field our own team, which is part of the fun.
So with the salary cap, we wouldn't be outspent by the large
No,
city teams? So
no,
it would
not
be
at
a
all.
competitive team, most likely.
It is what it is on the salary cap. There's no luxury tax or anything like that, so they can't outspend us.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm a supporter.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Dan, you mentioned December. Is January a possibility? If we did it at our January business meeting, which would be the third week in January, is that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
with reviews and a year end and everything like that, it might be tight for us to get it back here in 2.5 weeks.
Sure,
But we know we can get it done, in the 45 days.
sure.
Like time frame?
Yeah, that we can plan around that, absolutely.
Okay, I think that's pretty much one of your questions, wasn't it, Mike? And the discussions that you and I have had over the time period is that you're pretty open for everybody to work within this system. I give you a lot of credit, and you've done a lot of homework, and I think that it's something that we can go forward with. I know our administrator's now going to have the legal and technical questions to get answered, but otherwise I think it's something that this community could really look forward to and rally around. I know in the early 1900s we had a lot of teams here in Jackson that people watched play, and actually the fairgrounds at that time was called McCormick Field, and there was baseball games that were put on down there, so there might be some historical.
That would be
Things that we
fun
can
to
pay
know,
attention
because
to.
when you Google it, that stuff isn't there.
No, it's not.
So I'd be interested in seeing that.
Mike?
Just wanted to share with the board that in the master planning process, while it wasn't designed around a ball field, it was definitely noted and taken into consideration that the potential for a ball field. So when we were looking at where the midway was going to be, and then the parking lot, Dave, literally where the parking lot is today up front, that would be more available for parking and things like that for America One and all the activities up there. But the infield would no longer be parking, and the idea there would be that there's potential to create that such that where you see on the drawing here where he has the stands running perpendicular to the grandstands there, that those could be movable or collapsible or something to open that up a little more during the fair or potential other activities. No, on the south end there. Yeah, that's just a placeholder there. It's not actually by any means what it would or would not look like at this point.
Yeah,
But at
the aerial, sorry, the aerial is just a generic,
Yeah.
yeah.
Again, the idea was to maintain flexibility there and use and refurbishing the grandstands would be the primary, location for moving and shaking, if you will. A utility building or some sort there. I'm not sure what that is. To be honest with you, I haven't seen that. But at any rate, at this point, what you're looking for, just so I'm clear, is in this memorandum of understanding, literally you're looking for the board to say that we are not opposed to the idea, and if financially it works, we would be amenable to making some kind of agreement where you could lease our space for ball games.
Absolutely,
Okay.
that's it, yep.
Commissioner Duckham?
One thing just crossed my mind, this would be a joint use facility. I mean,
Right,
when there were not ball games occurring, there could be a concert,
absolutely, yeah.
so it would
I think
be
what I
dual
put in
purpose.
there's a sheet in there about what a final agreement could look like. I said, well, what if we had half the dates and the county had half the dates? Something like that. Or, that's obviously malleable, but just to make sure that we have a placeholder to point out that it would be, we would lease it for the games that, that we play. We probably would want to do a few other things there. We have a few other ideas as well. But then the county also has needs and wants to do some programming at that location as well.
You have a facility, we have an enhanced facility, is the way I see it.
Yeah.
So it'd be very usable for the county also. Thank you.
Okay, by consensus, are we all right with Mike in the administrator's office going forward with this discussion? Okay, and then Mike, in all his wisdom, will come back with a resolution so we can vote on it when it's ready. Thank you, Dan, very, very much. Very positive.
Well, very much.
and
Thank you.
Appreciated all your hard work on this.
Great, thank you.
I get the good news.
I was going to say, moving on to less pleasant matters. This is the second item on the agenda, or the SRI bond. Interest payment is due to be paid to the county by December 1st. What you have before you here is a resolution that has been to the Board of Public Works. They reviewed it and agreed to move it forward to this body. And it basically spells out, much like last time, that the Leone Township needs to pay the county, in this case, it's an interest-only payment, $72,500 is the total amount owed to the county by December 1. If, assuming you approve this today, they would we'd give them notice. They have 10 days to provide payment, or we would at that point declare them in default and notify the state treasurer and, of course, our attorneys to move forward with that action there to enforce payment. Questions?
You looking to approve this today or not?
Ideally, I would like to, because it's December 1st, and so effective, we should have had payment today. We do not. Otherwise, I have to just put it off, but I'd like to start the 10 days and go ahead and move it forward.
I'd so move.
We have a motion in support on the SRI bond. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the item? Seeing none, the vote should be in front of you if you have your computers on. If not, please notify the clerk how you feel. Passed unanimously.
Actually, we have Richard to present.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. What you have in front of you in board docs are three documents related to the restatement of the retirement system bylaws. Currently, if you notice in background, we are on a 5-year cycle with the IRS, and the last restatement was in 2010. So we have until the end of January of 16 to restate and apply for a favorable determination. A favorable determination letter really confirms that we have a qualified retirement plan, and then we enjoy the favorable tax consequences resulting from that. The other important item that you need to know is this probably will be the last opportunity we have to file for a determination letter. The IRS has announced effectively ending that program. So it's likely that this would be our last opportunity. We are in a cycle that requires every 5 years to do that. It's known as Cycle E. Overall, it requires us to restate the plan into a single document, incorporating any amendments that may have resulted from the last restatement. We had 3 that we incorporated into this document, plus any other provisions that are required in the bylaws and any clarity to provisions to conform with policy resolutions previously adopted by the Board of Trustees. So we kind of take all of that, put it into one document. We have a checklist from the IRS that they issue about wording. It's a standard letter that they issue for those of us who file for determination letters to make sure that our wording is in compliance with IRS guidelines. So we go through that checklist also. Our attorney, Brian Gallagher, has done that. He's also worked with the attorney for the trustees for the retirement system to clarify some wording around policy resolutions. So that's been done. We wanted to present this today for any discussion and follow-up from the commissioners.
Any questions, commissioners? This will be going through the normal cycle, so you'll have a chance to see it a couple of times. Dave?
Are we confident that we've caught everything that we need to catch in the bylaws? I know it's been kind of a quick thing for the attorney to have done, is it not? To review them well?
The county attorney has spent some time on it, Commissioner, looking at the restatement for IRS guidelines, plus also working with the attorney for the trustees. So it's been, he's spent a good deal of time on it. I have a document that I reviewed before the clean document, which is the red line version, to make sure all of those changes were incorporated.
Okay, thank you.
Again, like I said, this is going to go through the normal routine. We'll see it again in the middle of the month. So if you have further questions upon review, don't hesitate to get with the administrator so he can share with the other commissioners your questions and concerns. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Next item is discussion in regard to the 2016 meeting schedule. I trust everyone's had an opportunity to review it. This is our best, our best guess as to what we believe is appropriate dates and times and places.
Just to make a clarification, and Elaine is aware of this, she has our board meeting for March on the 5th, and that's going to be the 15th, just for clarification. She already, again, she's already aware of it.
I've been notified by the clerk that May 17th, neither her nor her deputy will be here. Is there an opportunity to move that 1 week? Okay. Are people okay with the day and time for the study session? Do it. Okay.
Mike, are the date and time for the study session the same? Yes. Yeah, thank you.
Moving on to the next item, Imagine Jackson Economic Impact. And we have Tim and Debbie here.
And Trish.
And Trigg. I don't think the board has met Trigg.
Yeah.
I'm sure Tim will introduce.
Good morning. We wanted to give you a quick update on our investment campaign. I came to you earlier in the fall and talked a little bit about the community assessment process that we've gone through with National Community Development Services that did a lot of interviews out in the community. Since that time, we've put together our case for investment, and one thing we did this year, unlike what we did in 2012 and 13, was spent a good deal of time looking at economic impact of job creation, and we wanted to share that with you briefly. We did provide both these documents, which are relatively lengthy, to Adam, so you should have it in your board documents list. We've kind of created our 5-year vision, which focuses on 3 things. One, no surprise, infrastructure development. We talked a lot about that in many of our meetings. Mike and Adam, I know all of you have talked about that issue. That is our priority for the next 5 years. What does this community look like as far as site and infrastructure development? How do we prioritize it? What are our challenges? The EG alone cannot solve those issues, but we see it as a priority to lead the community with a lot of other partners to address that issue. The second is the workforce issue, which Dan referenced earlier. We've heard a lot about that as well. We have worked with some of our partners in the past on early middle college, but the Chamber, Mindy, myself, and a small group of our board has created a separate small committee to work on what we believe will be, for lack of a better term, the work ethic issue, especially focused on our high school and graduating seniors. We have met with several superintendents. We're excited about this, and in fact have another meeting this afternoon about what it actually does that look like, how do we start, what's manageable. Obviously, with as many districts as we have in this county, you can't start a program and spread it towards everybody, so we need to make sure that we can bring business partners into this discussion and work with at least initially select school districts on this subject. And finally, another issue that Dan mentioned and came out of our community assessment, Mindy and I have talked a lot about this, about marketing from both an internal and an external perspective. External, we talk all the times to site selectors and decision makers about the benefits of Jackson County, but sometimes our biggest challenge is convince ourselves this is a good place to live, work, play, raise kids, and do all those things that we experience every day. And in some of our conversations, I know after this community assessment process, Mindy actually took that to heart and said, let's kind of up our resources allocated to that. So working with the Chamber and Experience Jackson, we kind of see a two-prong approach to that. If you see a thread there, it's that the EG is not alone the person that can accomplish any or all of these things. It's with our partners. You guys are our partners. The Chambers are partners. The Anchor initiatives are partners. School districts are partners. And that's how we believe we see our 5-year mission, is really to engage the partners on those subject matters that we need to make a difference in. I think I mentioned to you before, our campaign goal for 5 years is $2.4 million. That assumes a small increase from most of our existing business members, but bringing more business people to the table in supporting the enterprise group and these different initiatives that we have spread across these several areas. Brownfield development, and you all know as the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority is a county entity, is one of those areas that we see increasing activity in the county. We have worked closely with the city, the BRA has, but with this $400,000 federal grant that the BRA just received, we have a lot of business people interested in what they can do to upgrade some properties for development and actually increase the ability to bring in more property tax from them. And that's one of those areas that I think we'll see a lot of additional activity on. But what I really want to focus on and have Trigg come up and just give you some background. So we went through the community assessment process, we built our plan, and then we've looked at some averages over the past 5 to 7 years and said, what actually is good job creation numbers? New jobs, not just retained jobs. And we've come up with a goal for the next, 5 years of 1,500 new jobs. And, you can say economists, create numbers all day long and can support whatever you want to do, but we felt it was important from our investor standpoint to actually look at what does 1,500 jobs mean to the community, and how many times does that spin over, what does it mean from the public sector, the private sector. So one of the things that we did with National Community Development Services was actually spend some time and money to look at the economic impact of that with a system called IMPLAN. Just briefly, the chart in front of you shows what indirect jobs are added from 1,500 new jobs, and then the induced jobs as well. But what I want Trig to come up and just share with you is the background to this slide and present a couple more slides, basically from the return on investment for private sector dollars, investors in the EG, and public sector dollars, which I know you're most interested in, and then I'll come up and just give you kind of a summary of what's going to happen in the next couple weeks. Trig?
Morning, I'm Trygve Vigmostad from National Community Development Services. Trig, our company is based in Atlanta, Georgia, but I'm a Michigander, been here for 40 years, so it was easy to come here and know a little bit about Jackson and also work here. Enjoyed it. Having been the person that did a lot of the community interviews here, we did 57 in about a 4-week period. Staying on this chart just for a moment, we have the new job targeted at 1,500. What we've really done here is purchase the data for Jackson County. And think about it as a three-dimensional matrix where we have mapped out all of the various interrelations based on every census of manufacturing, everything you can think of that's data that's available. We purchase that data, and then we hit it with 1,500 jobs, and out pops a total of 2,709 if we have the total multipliers. And as you look at the multipliers, if you're looking at the indirect, that is, new company comes to town, buys some parts, services, or supplies from someone else, business to business. Then everybody that got new income spends it, goes out to the restaurant, and that's induced impact. So we have that impact on other measures in the economy. Income, on the next slide.
Just right, left click.
Right, left click?
Yeah, left click.
And we can use measures of income, value added, and output as well, and trace those indirect and induced impacts, and see that the multiplier for income is 1.48. We go from 102 million to 105 million. Similarly with value added, and most important, output. That's new business. And 382.6 million of new output multiplies to 540.6 million. That's the total new business we would expect over the next 5 years from new jobs created. Then if we just take a look at the return on investment first for the private sector, that 540 million new annual output or new annual business, we take 8% of that because 8% is the average of profit margin for corporate America. It has been for about 25 years. We take 8% of that. Oh, Mike, sorry. A little bit of a throat here. We take 8% of the 540 million, and we have 43,250,175 in profits available for the business community from these new jobs that are added. If we divide the private investment, 1.7 million, we end up with 24.55 to 1 of average corporate profits returned for the dollar invested in economic development. Very strong number. Even with a conservative 1,500 jobs as our target, it's a really strong return on investment. As we do this around the country, anything in the 15 to 30 range, you're right on target. 20 is very solid. And then we can take a look at doing this also for the public sector, where we take the next slide and take new annual property taxes that are this data that we purchase also computes the flow of taxes through the economy, so that we have new annual property taxes of 6.3 million. Jackson County invests 500,000 over the 5 years. If the townships stay at their current level of 137 million, 137,000, then we have a public investment of 637 and a return on investment of about 10 to 1. So if we, and they're just looking at the property taxes returned from 1,500 jobs in the economy, returned in terms of just the property taxes flowing back to the county and townships. That's pretty quick to go through all of that, but if you had any questions, we can explain a little bit more what's happening here, and be happy to answer questions. Mike, I think we're all set.
I would encourage you to read through the economic impact portion of those documents, and as you try to digest it, shout questions out at us and let us know if you need more explanation on some of those areas. I think the most important part, and we really never did this when we first started our campaign in 2012 and 13, is what does a new job actually mean to a community? So we wanted to spend some time doing that. The document is pretty voluminous, but I think it shows a lot of people, and especially not just the public sector, but the private sector, that a lot of times we have questions from potential investors about, well, why should we do this? We're doing okay. Mike and I have had this discussion many times, that a lot of the challenges that we face in this county is going to be resolved by growing the pie bigger, and these kind of numbers actually demonstrate that in order for us to grow our way out of some of the financial challenges we have to have investment in new jobs, which relates to the infrastructure issue that we talked about earlier. And finally, I'll kind of give you an update on where we're at with our investment campaign. We have 20 business leaders that have committed to serve on our campaign development committee. Rick Walton is going to be the chair of that committee. We're having, I think you were all invited for Thursday, kind of a thank you event for everybody that's invested in our organization over the past 3 years, and kind of kick off the investment campaign for the next 5 years. There'll be some other people from NCDS in the community over the next 2 to 3 months helping us with soliciting for new investment. We're always looking for potential investors. If you guys recognize people, see people, identify people, Mike knows I have no qualms about going out and kind of making the case for the enterprise group. Let me know that. We'll put them on our list and definitely make calls on them. I just wanted to give you a quick update. Like I said, once you get a chance to read through that, there's a lot more detail. Be happy to answer them individually or come back in the next couple weeks or months and give you updates as we proceed.
So Tim, you're saying that for every dollar invested, there's $24 returned?
From on the private sector side.
And what was the public sector side again?
A little over $9, $9.90, I think.
For every dollar invested, there's $9.93 returned.
In property tax.
And-
That's assuming there's no tax abatements involved and other things, which we know isn't the case, but.
And property tax. And how's that calculated? I mean, can you elaborate
I'd
a
have
little
to
bit
ask
on
the
that?
economist to.
Anybody want to enlighten us a little bit more on that? The mic, please.
Yeah, when we calculate, when we put the data together and impact it with 1,500 jobs, it not only calculates the multipliers for all of the value added that we saw in output, but also tax revenue for all levels of government, state and local. The in-plan software people are writing feverishly to try and be able to separate that carefully, but we still don't have that. But we can assume that the property taxes in Michigan primarily flow back to the county and municipalities. So we can trace that property tax back. And if you look at the full document, there is an appendix, 1, I believe, in the economic impact analysis, which shows all taxes flowing and property taxes being a major component of that, sales back to the state. So it's very accurate. The data we purchase is brand new. It is the latest available and traces literally every action and reaction throughout the community. If one company is buying from another, paying taxes on those, that is all traced and accumulated.
Just so I'm clear here, I see you speak of sales tax, and, of course, we don't receive sales tax,
Right.
so that's excluding the sales tax portion, and it's still 1 to 9?
That's correct. We just took property taxes.
Okay. Okay, that's significant, thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions, commissioners? Thank you, Trig. Thank you, Tim. Then, seeing no more questions, we'll move on. Next, we have the ad hoc committee. I believe Mr. Brown is going to give us a little update on his report.
Good morning. Happy December 1st. This is the report of the Jackson County Medical Care Facility Ad Hoc Committee in 2015. The full report is attached in board docs, and this presentation is a summary of that report and its findings. The purpose statement of that ad hoc committee is there on the top of the screen. Were charged with the responsibility of reviewing the current medical care facility maintenance of effort millage and making a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners for future funding. The members of that committee are seen below. There's 3 commissioners, Mr. Ron Markowski, and also Supervisor Janczyk from Blackman Township. Over the course of about 8 months, they had 7 meetings, and they met with the county finance officer, the medical care facility administrator, Plant Moran, who did the facility study several years ago, the Jackson County Guardian, the architect and legal counsel for the medical care facility, the executive director of the Michigan Medical Care Facilities, a representative from a private care center in Jackson, and also the County Building Authority over the course of those 8 months. Just for the background, our operation is 194 beds, and it's a new facility that opened in 2003. A leverage millage of 0.15 was passed in 1999, and it's 20 years, so it'll expire in 2018. And some of the things coming up is they need a flat roof replacement. It's nearing the end of that lifespan of that roof, and this board it went through committee last month, and it'll be on the agenda at the December regular meeting to approve $800,000 from MOE expenses to repair that roof. And the total cost of that is estimated to be $1.2 million, so they'll gain the rest of that from funded depreciation and future funded depreciation. And the space on the ground floor was recently vacated by an adult respite care and a child care center, and that leaves open some options for reorganizing the business. So some of these data, at least they surprised me as I looked at them. There's our 65 plus population in Jackson is 19,582 persons. The hospital mainly discharged 1,922 Medicare Part A eligible persons to skilled nursing facilities. Those are generally people with options, those Medicare Part A. They have some choice in where they go. And that's some, as I'll talk about a little bit later, a part of the population that we need to be open to make the whole business operation work. Our facility is the largest of all the facilities, and it's about 30% of that adult population at 194 beds. And because of our mission to, in the history of the medical care facilities, we have the lowest utilization of Medicare at 8.58%. The next closest to that would be almost 20%. So looking at the community needs, one of the reasons we did bring in a private owner to the ad hoc committee meeting was to get their perspective on whether our facility was a competitor to them, whether they saw our facility as fulfilling a need in our community, or maybe it didn't. And the response that we got from that owner was the county needs an alternative for those who can't afford private care. And also recognition that they would not only for people that can't afford care, but that they also need a mix of Medicare Part A, skilled nursing facilities to make the finances of that work. So we learned from the State Medical Care Facilities Association Director that there's definitely a movement of people with choice to go from double occupancy room to single occupancy room. Currently, all of our rooms are made for double occupancy. So for people with choice, that they're making the choice that they're going to come to that medical care facility for up to 100 days and have to share a room with somebody. And some people may not have a problem with that. Others are going to choose somewhere else to go where they might have their own room. So, the physical plant needs, as I discussed, the roof needs to be repaired within the next 5 years. Because of the nature of the business, it's not acceptable for that roof to fail. So you may lose a little bit of lifespan out of the roof, but you have to do it before it fails. That operation is not one where you can play it out and wait till the end. So it's because of our customers there. Cost of that is $1.2 million. And the Medical Care Facility Board has been funding depreciation at $20,000 a month. As of their October meeting, they designated half of that funded depreciation to go directly towards the making up the residual amount in the roof replacement. The ad hoc committee looked at the study by Plant Moran and the different options, and what it came back to was that single occupancy room availability to increase the number of Medicare Part A options or patients that would come into there. By increasing that 8.58% and moving that number up, it makes the financial stability of the whole enterprise better. So the plan you see on the right there, you'll see 16 single occupancy rooms. Because the number of beds is capped by the state, what that means is that we have to move 16 double occupancy rooms on the main floor to single occupancy rooms. So that gives you a total of 32 single occupancy rooms. So the committees did look at those different options that were in the Plant Moran study, and as part of their recommendation, opted to choose option 2 for the purposes of the financial analysis that went into it. So a couple slides here relating to financials. You have basically 4 customers there, or financing mechanisms. There you have, like I said, you have the Medicare Part A, which is skilled nursing. That's somebody discharged from a hospital for up to 100 days. You have Medicaid population, which is the primary population. That's low-income seniors who have a few options. Quality assurance program relates back to the maintenance of effort money, and I'll show you how that works in a graphic here in a minute. And then there's some patient pay responsibility that is determined by their income, by the cost of care. And I think that's explained a little bit more out in the paper. I didn't try to get into it in the presentation here. Looking at their variable costs, though, you see most of it, like us, comes back to wages and payroll. Not quite as much as our organization, because they do have a lot more equipment involved, and raw goods like food and medical instruments and stuff like that. But still, it's largely wages and payroll, and you can see the other breakout. So to explain how the maintenance of effort is calculated and why that's important, the state is required to use their own money to match federal dollars, pull federal dollars down, and then that money makes it back to the local medical care facility. The maintenance of effort, when it was created, was designed to ensure that counties continued to financially participate in the funding of this service. So by requiring this payment, we pay to the state, and then the state is able to leverage additional federal matching dollars that go back to the county. That's the purpose of the maintenance of effort. It's calculated in arrears from previous year's costs, and I think I explained that a little bit more in the paper. This is a history of the maintenance of effort payment. You can see it ranges from the last 14 years, 2001, from $132,000 to up to almost $500,000. We estimated the final year of the millage to collect $604,000. So if you look at that, if our highest in the range is $484,000 and we're collecting $604 in the final year, there's a surplus there of $100,000 to $150,000, maybe in a good year $200,000. That millage can also be used for operating and capital costs, which the Medical Care Facility Board has in the past through permission of the Board of Commissioners. This is just a short history of the millages approved. These are the millages approved, and they've been brought down by Headley, which you can see in one of the appendix documents in the report. Although we have a .15 mil approved in 1999, Headley has brought that down to .1398. So the purchasing power of that mill has been reduced by Headley. Up until 1995, they were receiving a half mil. And in 95, there's some discussion about whether that .15 was actually what it was intended to be, but regardless, that's what was approved by voters, .15, and it was renewed in 1999. The board, or the committee, looked at 3 financial models, one of which was letting the current millage expire and doing nothing. The second was a voter-approved millage of .15, the same as what they have. And then the last was a .25 mil voter approved. Letting the current millage expire, the medical care facility would have a positive cash flow up until 2022, where they would begin to operate in the negative. They also could not fund the capital improvements to the ground floor to increase those single occupancy bedrooms. And without doing that, you're not going to be able to have the long-term sustainability of the enterprise. So we looked at the .15 mil option. That does not, while that creates a positive cash flow, it does not give you the ability to positively cash flow the ground floor improvements to add those 32 single occupancy beds. And so then your optimization of the Medicare to Medicaid patients is not met. So the .25 mils that was the last option, that fully funds in a positive cash flow the improvements to the ground floor, the creation of the 32 single occupancy beds, and then that allows you to optimize the Medicare to Medicaid ratio and to increase that for the betterment of the enterprise. So because of those financial recognitions and the plans, the ability to improve the sustainability of the business operation by adding the single occupancy rooms, the committee recommended the millage of proposal of .25 mils for 15 years, and they're recommending that that be voted on in the August 2016 election. And the underlying principle of that, or the underlying reason for that recommendation, was the option 2 in the Plan Rand study to add the single occupancy room. That makes the long-term feasibility of the economics work better. So that is the committee recommendation of the ad hoc committee, and this committee was chaired by Commissioner Julie Alexander, and we'll be happy to answer any questions, and some of the committee members may want to comment as well.
Commissioner Elwell?
Adam, maybe I caught it in the presentation, but if we let it go to a vote and it goes to .25 mils, the current .15 that doesn't expire till 18 just simply won't be collected, is that it?
That's our understanding, is that the Board of Commissioners would choose not to collect that for the remaining years of that millage.
And how would we make that clear to the public that may not trust that we're not going to be collecting .40? I mean, is there some mechanism for us to vote on to assure that we don't collect that? That's always good.
Right, a vote by resolution, but
Vote by resolution, Dave.
you'd certainly want to have an information campaign about that so that our resolutions typically don't get around the public ear. You could probably include that in the resolution to approve the ballot language, that should the voters approve the millage, that the county will not collect the future.
Yeah, I think we need to make every effort to guarantee that we're not going to, double dip on it, so.
Commissioner Rice?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and so I want everybody to know that Adam took an enormous amount of information that we gathered and took notes from many people that presented, and he took all that and was able to put it into this presentation that we're able to not only listen to, but we have now on our board docs. And I just want everybody to understand that that was quite a task on his part, as well as the fact that he's also serving at the parks. So I just want to say thank you, Adam, for that. No surprise to anybody here, but I want to clarify, of anybody on that committee, I would probably been the one that would have said no way on any of this going in. It's been somewhat of my track record over the years, but I will say this, that once we received presentations from the state, Plant Moran, from the medical care facility, from our finance director, Jim Latham, from our facilities director, Rick Shealy, from the private sector, and the people on the committee, and the fact that I went to several care homes and assisted living homes for reasons beyond the committee, I can say this, that the medical care facility is definitely needed. And when you look at the .25 mils, there's an infrastructure within the medical care facility that needs to occur to meet the need of the population. It's not even a competitive situation. It's needed to meet the needs of the population out there, such as single beds, and Adam went through a lot of things, so I won't go over it again. But I just want to share that at the end of all this, I had a better understanding of this, and I hope we as a commission, when the public ask about this, that we can give them an excellent reason why this is necessary for the people in our community. And another thing too is this isn't, there are some people who are just over that income level, and we all know about that, where they make a little too much and they can't afford some of the private sector facilities that are out there, and yet, but they can still go to the medical care facility. So, that also is quite important to remember. Thank you.
It's something I mentioned in the report that was brought to us, that somebody on Medicaid that goes into the facility surrenders all their income, and I think they're left with $60 a month. That's disposable income. And granted, their needs are met through food, shelter, and it's an excellent facility as far as programming and things, but $60 a month of discretionary income doesn't go very far.
Mike or Adam, one of the things I recall reading was that the committee brought in two outside people. I think Mr. Ganton was one of them. And two of the comments I recall reading were that he did not see the medical care facility as in competition with private, which I think that's one of the criticisms we typically face when we have government doing something like the medical care facility. So it was good to hear that. And I think there was also a question posed to him if medical care facility was people coming from private to there or there to private. And I think he described it as kind of a revolving door where they go back and forth and couldn't see any discernible pattern on it. So those were both good things, and especially that the private industry didn't see us as in competition to them, but something that was a necessary element that we're providing, so.
I think another point, just for the sake of transparency, that everyone understands when the medical care facility meets once a month, they are public meetings, and they report to us. All issues are out there. Individuals, public comment is always welcome at their monthly meetings. So as everyone moves forward, any questions can definitely be directed to them through us and or their own organization, DHS. And also, as Commissioner Rice said, Adam, thank you very much for taking this in-depth, all this data and information and making it into a logical presentation. We do appreciate your time and effort, as well as all of the committee members. Thank you very much for your time in serving so that we could perform the due diligence that was needed to come to this conclusion.
Well, it was a very well-organized committee, and that makes it a lot easier to put this stuff together, but very thorough process, and it's good leadership.
Any further questions or comments? Let's digest this and probably bring it back in sometime in January for the vote on the resolutions, after legal reviews what we can put in the language. Thank you. Thank you again, Adam. Do you have another item? A resolution? Pick up from the table?
Yeah, I was going to say, you're going to do it.
Commissioner Rice has requested that we have a motion to pick up from the table his resolution, Resolution 12-15.44, Stepping Up Initiative Resolution to reduce the number of people with mental illness in jails.
So moved.
We have a motion and support. Madam Clerk, I'm going to ask for a roll call, please, either by the computer or voice, whichever is easier for you.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Leitner? Yes. Commissioner Walls? Commissioner Rice? Yes. Commissioner Duckham? Yes. Commissioner Elwell?
Yes.
Commissioner Alexander?
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney? Yes. Commissioner Placzek?
Yes.
Chairman Shotwell?
No.
These are out of order. Okay. 8-1.
The motion to pick up from the table passed. I will ask Commissioner Rice to address the board.
I was going to make another motion to send it to Human Services for review and potential forwarding to the full board for action.
Have a motion. We have a motion and support. Any discussion? I would like to speak. I have an issue with this resolution. My issue still rises to the level that Lifeways has not stepped up and followed through with making a resolution to do this. Their lack of support, again, for another month, again, makes me wonder why we are doing this first and they are not showing endorsement. There is going to be a cost to this, and we don't know what that cost is. There's no analysis to show us what this is going to cost, and we're going to move it through the committee system at this time. And I have issues with it. I'm opposed to doing something like this at this time without these answers being put forward to the people at large of Jackson County.
I think it deserves discussion by the board. I may not necessarily support it in the end. I've got some of the same concerns you do. One of the concerns that I voiced before was that there was no input from the sheriff on it. I had a brief discussion with him on it. Carl says there's documents in email, I think, that he is supportive of this. But I share the same concerns as the chair does, and hopefully those things can be addressed before it gets to the full board if it does. But I see no harm in running it through the committee process, and again, I may be in opposition to it when it comes to it if all those things aren't addressed, but I think it merits a discussion anyway. Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Rice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First comment I'd like to make is that, not that I really want to use a cliche, but I will. We have to look at this, in some respects, I think, Mr. Chairman, you're putting the cart before the horse. This is a county situation. It's a county resolution. This is something that comes from the National Association of Counties that's been supported by the Michigan Association of Counties. Actually, Lifeways came to me and asked me if I would mind if they looked at a resolution to support our resolution. It was not necessary for me to say yes. It wasn't even necessary for Lifeways to be in participation with this. As a matter of fact, Sheriff Rand and I and Captain Hoyt had quite a nice long conversation about this, and they've already talked with Integral as well. Lifeways does not have to be the facility that functions at the sheriff department to deal with the mental health issues there and the substance use disorder issues there. So the only reason Lifeways is even involved in this is because I said yes. A second point, since we last had conversation, I will be going Thursday to the executive committee at Lifeways because of the homework and follow-up I've done, which is in the email I sent out to everybody, which I also sent out to the Lifeway board. There is a different mindset now because I followed up on the questions and concerns everybody had. And again, Sheriff Rand has given his support of this because he understands that from a mental health standpoint, yes, we passed, as a commission, we passed a medical portion for the jail, but there is nothing for the mental health portion because, again, Integral used to take care of that services. Lifeways jumped in because they were providing general fund dollars. Lifeways can no longer provide general fund dollars because they don't have the money. Obviously, the sheriff department doesn't have the money. So what this is a way, this resolution is a way to help receive funding so that we can have a sustainable mental health program at the jail. I've already had conversations with the director of the Mid-State Health Network, the clinical director of the Mid-State Health Network. They are, and I had a conference call that specifically dealt with our Jackson County Jail, and they are in agreement that we meet all the criteria necessary, and they strongly believe that there's sustainable funding out there, which I put in my email. There is no match money to it. There's no dollar amount that will cost the county anything. And the fact is that money can be utilized. Lifeways can be the provider if they want to be. Integral could be the provider. It could be anybody. But this is all about, this is Jackson County. And this is to help our sheriff department and future funding for drug-related issues. So it's not a cost thing to us at all. I got the support of Judge Michael McLaren as well. I've also got the support of our prosecutor as well, who obviously is putting together a drug summit next week, who's very supportive of this because this is about exactly what we're doing here in Jackson County. We have other counties in our community. Commissioner Elwell asked about that as well. Muskegon County has done this. Livingston County has done this. Grand Traverse County has done this, and so on and so forth. So this is Jackson County doing this. This isn't, Lifeways could actually not even exist, and this is something that this resolution still pertains to Jackson County and our criminal justice system and the problems we have with the opiate problem, mental health problems and stuff in Jackson. And I could go on and on, obviously, but this is actually a very good thing for Jackson County. It's not a negative, and it doesn't have to cost us a dime unless we want to pay a dime. And that's plain and simple truth. Thank you.
So let me understand what you just said, Carl. Lifeways does not have funding for this, general fund dollars. We know the sheriff's department doesn't have any money. This is a mental health document, and you just went on about drugs and drug abuse and drug problems in our jail system. To me, that means any costs and expenses are going to fall back on the general fund of the County Board of Commissioners to pay for this. And I have issue when you talked drug problems, and this is about mental illness. You're not even talking to the issue that's before you in the resolution. My concern is that we don't have the dollars. My concern is that while Integral can do the services, they're a private sector company. They don't do things for free. They don't do things out of the goodness of their heart. And I think we're going down a road here where we're going to end up with another bill that we're going to have to pay and find the money for and give up other services and programs. That's my whole issue. I don't think it's been thought through, and I still have that concern. Commissioner Elwell.
Well, a couple things to say. This is exactly why this debate is good, because I'd hate to just simply turn away this resolution without having this discussion, because it is about finances among many other things. But back to the issue of Lifeways, just because Lifeways may not have a financial stake in this particular issue, certainly the issues in the resolution are what they deal with, and a resolution from them saying that they support the principle of this, there'd be nothing wrong with that. They're the lead mental health agency in our county. I would think they would be supportive of it if it's that well spoken of. But again, this is why we need to have the public discussion on it, because if we end up not supporting it, I don't want the people to think you didn't give any consideration to it. Maybe it'll pass, maybe it won't, but at least we'll have the discussion on it. Thank you.
Mr. Duckham?
No, I keep hearing all the support that's behind this plan, and it probably is, but if it's such an important issue, and I think it could be an important issue, but where are the other stakeholders that all want the board to approve and go ahead with providing the jail population this service? I don't see the sheriff here, I don't see the prosecutor here. Everybody that is supposed to support this, either they're too busy, they haven't been invited, or their support is lukewarm, where they don't show up to endorse Commissioner Rice's issue here. So I think Commissioner Rice needs to get the people here and explain their part of this program, their support for the program. And I don't see this thing having a lot of support unless we're sold on the idea. And Carl's the only one selling it right now. And I want to hear from the other people that they do believe in this program enough to come here and say so. It does bother me that this was a federally funded program, and now somehow all the obligations been dumped down on local level again. We seem to be the dumping ground for programs that need to be funded. That bothers me too. Thank you.
Commissioner Rice?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To clarify again, this is not a financial trap for Jackson County whatsoever. Okay, the organization, Mid-State Health Network, which is where the money flows through, this is not a PA $2 situation either. Okay, this is a sustainable funding source that is being sought, and this is something that I've made very clear to Sheriff Rand, Prosecutor Jarzinka, Judge McLaren, the Court Administrator Tammy Bates, the CEO of Lifeways, Mary Beth, and I could go on and on and on. The point is that when we talk about money, okay, right now currently with our mental health court, for instance, and our drug court, okay, we receive money for those, and guess what? Jackson County doesn't have to pay a dime, they don't have to pay a match, they don't have to pay anything. And that's been going on for years. And this is the same kind of funding. And I got that information straight from the court administrator, that this is the same type of funding I'm talking about. This costs Jackson County nothing, and this allows our sheriff department, our jails, to actually have a program. And it does involve mental health, it does involve opiate problems, and it does involve substance use disorders. All these things will be addressed because of co-occurring disorders. They intermix, so all these things will be addressed, and it's not a dime out of our pocket. And that's something that, I put all this in the email, it's all in that email if you look through it thoroughly, and Commissioner Duckham, if he would look at I don't know if he's looked at the emails, but the email specifically came from individuals. So the sheriff's email came with the sheriff's name on it, and the sheriff saying, I support this, okay, and et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, they may not be standing in front of here, but they put their name on paper, which in some ways is just important. They put their name on there and said, this is what I'm supportive of, because there is no money for this. And the fact is, we have money for this. And you know, this resolution will only help get that money. I can assure you, I will continue to go after this money, even if the commission decides not to do anything with this resolution. I'll still go after the money, because it's there for us. And why not have a continued jail diversion program for this? We desperately need it here in Jackson County. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I ask one more question, and I'll shut up after that? In the resolution, there's 6 bullet points that it calls on us to resolve to do these things, and without running down each one, who does those? I mean, it talks about doing studies, examining treatment, collect and review numbers, develop a plan, implement, and create a process. Who does all those things? Because there's a cost that's associated with those things.
Actually, like the current drug summit that we have now, Drug Summit 2, that's going to be coming next week, okay? What happens is, and as I've talked to everybody, the sheriff or somebody he wants to designate will be a part of this. Our Jackson Coalition here in Jackson County will be a part of this. The prosecuting office will be a part of this. Whoever our committee of mental health is, and I suspect it'll be Lifeways, will be part of this. I obviously, certainly at the pleasure of the rest of my commissioners, I certainly would not have a problem being a part of this. I have done literally tons of research and hours I put into this. So what you would do is you would get this group together to address these situations, to find measurable outcomes, and to determine whether or not this particular program is effective. So the players are in place, Dave. And that costs nothing. It's just like the current drug summit, like I said, that's being put in place. There's no dollars attached to it. People are stepping up to the plate because this needs to be done. Now, but there will be dollars coming in for the program, which, again, I've already taken the first steps and received the okay that Jackson County meets the criteria for funding. No dollars attached by us. I've already been told that we meet the criteria for funding from the Director of Mid-State Health Network. Now the next step is to get that funding. So, thank you.
To review the motion, it has been requested by the Board of Commissioners to move this resolution to Human Services in December. Is that correct? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Duly carried. We've arrived at the second opportunity for public comment. If anyone would like to address the board, please step forward and do so.
Todd Britton, Leone Township. I just want to speak on the SRI bond payment that was brought up earlier. If Leone had the money, we would make the payment. I'm just confused by the vote, mainly because the county, they picked Plant Moran to come in and do an audit of our funds. They went through our books, they went through everything, and they saw that we're not collecting money to make the payment. The judge's ruling, I mean, it's plain and clear that the judge said that the county has to enforce the contract. Leone Township cannot. And I'm just confused. I know Leone we put our full faith and credit in it, but we have to have the money to make the payment, and without the county enforcing the contract, we cannot collect the money from the townships in the contract. And until that goes to court and is settled in court, we won't be able to make that payment. And that's where the confusion comes in. I understand your positions, but if we had the money, we'd pay it. We were borrowing money from our own funds, from our routine and non-routine maintenance funds to make those payments before we had the judge's ruling. That's how we made the payments then. We depleted those funds, and we just don't have the money to make the payment. Once the county enforces the contract, then we'll have the money to make the payments, and we're not going to withhold anything. So I just wanted to mention that, and hopefully this gets resolved soon in court. Leone's eager to get this over and done with. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Commissioner comments? Commissioner Leitner?
In case people didn't get the email yesterday, Mr. Herman Gumper passed away yesterday. There's going to be a visitation tomorrow at the Weatherby Funeral Home from 2 to 4 and 6 to 8, and then they're going to have a private funeral, but just thought people should know that since he was with the fair for like 34 years. Thanks.
Any other commissioner comments? Seeing none, we stand adjourned.